Hello there, world of tankers. I'm Blitz, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about my 2 picks on the deadliest tanks at tier 10. Now of course this is going to be my opinion in the video. If you guys have your own personal preferences or opinions on what you think the deadliest tanks are at tier 10, let me know in the comments down below. But in this video I'm going to be talking about my 2 picks. So as you've been seeing from the background gameplay, the Object 263 is my number 2 choice, and pretty much everything about this tank is just absolutely broken. It has 3,856 damage per minute, and that's only like one part of the 12 things that make it so strong. It has 290 millimeters of standard pen with the tank. Its premium goes up to 330, which isn't great for a tier 10 tank destroyer, but 290 is easily going to get straight through any target you are aiming at. As well, with 1,000 shell velocity, that's one of the quicker numbers at tier 10, which is easily going to be able to let you snap people across the move. And with an aiming time of only 2.08 seconds, that is excellent. Its dispersion value, 0.290, is second in the class, as well dispersion factors while moving, rotating the tank after shot are number 1 out of every tier 10 tank destroyer. The only issue I really struggle with in this tank is the gun depression. At 4 degrees, you're really going to find hard positions to get into, and that's one of the only complaints I do have is when I'm using it and I want to get out that damage per minute. If I'm on a map like Oasis Palms, you really have to be careful where you're pushing it, especially in the dunes, because medium tanks can really take advantage of having gun depression over your tank that doesn't. But usually, I'm going to stay at the back of the map. That's what I've learned in it, and you can see me here. I'm going to stay at the back of the map, and then I realize, wait, my team needs help, then I'll push in, then I'll really get the damage racking up. Because, not to mention, the tank goes 55 kilometers per hour forward, goes 20 in reverse, it's got a great power to weight ratio of 16.04, its traverse speed is best in class at 36.45, and so is the camouflage ratio at 28.80. Pretty much everything on this tank is crazy strong, and that's what makes it just such a deadly vehicle on the battlefield. And the crazy thing I find about it is just nobody goes down this line. And it's funny because you'd say, well, maybe it's because the tier 9 and the tier 8 aren't that good. But you look at a vehicle like the 183, and you look at the Tortoise, and then you look at the AT-15, and that line is just completely horrid. But you look at the 183, and it's got 930 damage. It doesn't have a great damage per minute, because obviously you're only hitting about 1/3 of your shells when you use that tank. But everybody wants to go for that tank. It's the most played tank destroyer at tier 10, and the Object 263 is one of the least played. And I honestly have no clue why nobody goes for this tank line, because it is just crazy if you do know how to play them. Now of course it does require a bit of skill to do well in this tank, because as I said, it doesn't have great gun depression, but the nice thing is it's very, very forgiving. Its side armor is weak, I'll say that. The rear armor is terrible. You can be heshed in the side, the rear by any British tanks, but the frontal armor is sitting at around 330 millimeters thick. The superstructure as well is about 350. The only spot that's actually a weakness on the frontal armor of this tank is the lower plate, which is about 150, and the gun mantlet, which is around 295. Now the gun mantlet is pretty easy to penetrate if you're running vehicles like an E5 and you're using 374 millimeters of heat pen. However, it can be quite troll if you're wiggling the tank, you're moving the gun mantlet up and down. It can be very, very tricky to pen this tank if a player does know what they're doing. You can wiggle this thing just like you'd wiggle in an E50M, and you'll bounce upwards of 50-60% of the shells coming at your tank. Now, of course, you can shoot on the grill of this vehicle. That is another weakness I forgot to put in. When I am running this tank, I never, ever want the enemy to be able to aim at the frontal grill of the vehicle or just right above the gun, because it is only about, I'd say, 70 millimeters thick there, which means that if you're aiming down on that, even with a vehicle like an E100, you can easily aim down on that and pen it every single time. So when I run this tank, as I said, I stay at the back of the game for the beginning moments, because I want to maximize the amount I can help my team sitting at the back, doing covering fire. Then, when I need to get in there, I'll use my 55 km/h top speed, rush in there, just brawl with any tank I really go up against. I've got more than 1,000 damage per minute ahead of a vehicle like an E100, and I can bounce 50% of the time. I'll bounce a shell from a tank like that. So it's just crazy how effective the Object 263 is, and that's why I put it in the number 2 spot. And finally, placing in the number 1 position is the FV4005. Now, this tank does not have a lot of strengths going for it on the physical appearance. The turret is literally 14 millimeters thick, and it's probably one of the tallest vehicles you will find at tier 10. The hull armor as well, not super strong. It's a very tall tank. It's a big, bulky target, and you're never going to miss this thing if it does get spotted, and that's why it's taken out so easily by players that don't know how to run it. But the main thing on this vehicle that is so deadly is the clip that's capable of doing 1,380 damage in a single clip. That's literally 6 seconds, and you've wiped off more than half of a medium tank's hit point pool at tier 10. Not to mention, this tank really doesn't miss that many shells. It's extremely accurate. It's almost like strapping that 263 gun on an autoloader, and that's what really makes it so deadly. I find the issue with a vehicle like the 183, you really just struggle to hit your shells. You can see a 111.5A 480 meters away, 1 shell in, 2 shells in, and literally the 3rd shell perfectly where I aimed, and he's down 1,300 hit points in a matter of seconds, and that's what this tank is able to do. And even if you miss 1 shell, you still have pretty much the same alpha as a tank like a 183 at 920. So it's just so deadly. Even if you have 1 shell in the clip, it's really, really deadly. And the crazy thing is, clip reload is only about 19 seconds, which is, again, about the same as a 183 reload, but you're doing the same damage as a 183 if it's shooting Hess shells and penning them. So you have a really nice advantage over a vehicle like the 183. As well, decent mobility. I think it goes 42 kilometers per hour. It has a very nice power to weight ratio, very good terrain crossing capacity. So it's actually able to get into positions, which is something that the 183 really struggles with. And although I did say the camo rating isn't the best on this tank, it still is about 5 times better than the 183's camo rating. So you don't have to worry about being spotted, especially in a position like you're seeing me up here, which is really careful if you're not watching where you are. Now, unfortunately, speaking about being spotted, that 263 did get spotted, and you can see again, with some just nice aiming skills, easily 3 shells right into that 268, and again, dead. About 1,400 hit points taken right off that tier 10 tank destroyer, and we would have left him on about 400 if he hadn't been shot by my teammate. So this tank has the ability to literally cripple anything that it's going up against. Even a mouse is still going to be hurting quite a bit after this tank does start shooting at it. Now, of course, if you are shooting at some of the tougher tier 10 tank destroyers, you might bounce 1 or 2 of your shells. But the nice thing is, with a 183, you got 1 shot, and if you mess up that shot, you're done. This tank, you have the ability to mess up 1 shot and still take 900 hit points off. Mess up 2 shots, just reload your clip, back up. You've got a turret on the tank. It's fairly mobile. Wargaming was actually planning on nerfing this tank when it first came out, when they nerfed the Conway and the Charioteer, but for some reason they never nerfed the Traverse beyond it. So it's actually very quick. You're able to outflank some of the enemy heavy tanks, some of the medium tanks. You can actually get the sides of and easily tap shells into them. And if you're, instead of running the aiming time or other consumables, I personally like the aiming time the best over the reload time and the speed, but you can also go 8 kilometers per hour faster. You have 50% boost to engine power, I think it is, which is crazy. So the tank can literally go about 50 kilometers per hour just pretty much anywhere it needs to go on the map, and easily even outflank some of the medium tanks in the game because it's so quick with that consumable. Personally, I don't like it, but it is really nasty if you can get the sides of some tanks. But again, my final target I'm shooting at here, 1 shell in, 2 shells in, and of course we're going to get the 3rd in. There you go. So literally 3 clips. That's all I needed. I penned all 3 of the clips I fired this game, and we did 4,700 damage. That is just how deadly this tank is. And I just pulled this tank out today. I played 5 or 6 games in it, and I was able to average around 3,500 damage in the tank. It is one of my highest average damage tanks at tier 10. And I actually have a blast running it. This is one of the least played tanks now at tier 10, just because, first of all, it is really ugly, and I had to put my ugly camo on it just to match the playstyle of the tank. But even though if it is ugly, it plays really well. It's one of the most exciting tanks at tier 10, I will say that, because you have this massive clip potential, but you also have a lot of responsibility. You have to know where to push. It's got great gun depression. I think it's 10 degrees, which is really good, especially if you're trying to work ridgelines and something like that, but you also have to worry that somebody could high explosive you. Now, I do carry the ability or the equipment that takes off, I think, 20% of the high explosive damage, which is really nice because some tanks that shoot high explosive at you actually lose alpha damage if they were to just shoot their standard ammo. So personally, this is one of my strongest tier 10 tank destroyers in the game. I don't run it as much as I should, but I would definitely suggest if any but I would definitely suggest, if any of you aren't going for this tank line and you're thinking about going for a new one, this is really, really fun, and definitely choose this tank over the 183 any day of the week. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. If you agree on my opinion of the FE4005 and the Object 263, I was thinking about putting maybe a heavy tank in this list or putting a medium tank, but personally, tank destroyers do have the best guns, and this comparison wasn't Deadliest tanks for the mobility they have. It wasn't Deadliest because they do 640 damage like an E100 and have a lot of armor. The reason I picked these two tanks as the Deadliest is because they're able to tear apart their opponents in the quickest amount of time and do it very, very easily. The 4005, you're not going to bounce that many shells, and as you saw, I've ruined about 3 tanks' days in just a matter of seconds. And the 263, you can do that without having to reload a clip. It's literally just twice as long as a shell interval in this tank, and it does the same damage. 263 is just a really menacing tank as well. I almost wanted to put the 263 above the 4005, but just the ability to take off almost 1400 hit points in 6 seconds is crazy. So I hope you guys agree with my opinion. If you don't, let me know in the comments down below what you think the Deadliest tier 10s are. But other than that, guys, I hope you did enjoy this video. As always, make sure to subscribe, like it if you did like it, and if you didn't like it, well, let me know in the comments down below what you didn't like about this video. But other than that, I'll see you in the next one.